Welcome to another episode of Let's Connect with Dr. D. We have another exciting story to share with you this afternoon, so please hold on to your seats, get a cup of tea, and join us for our upcoming guest. Our guest is someone who is a young entrepreneur who has his products not just locally in Tobago, but also outside of Tobago, and I hope to hear that he also has regional connections. So welcome Ted Jones to the set of Let's Connect.
Hello, thank you, Dr. D. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite, and it is absolutely my pleasure.
It's so wonderful to have you here too. I know of your story somewhat. I'm sure there are areas that you're going to be sharing that I may not know about. So I'm actually looking forward to that. But let's start with, you grew up in Tobago.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
Okay, well, growing up in Tobago, I guess like any or most of us, we had the enjoyment of school, but the greater enjoyment of holidays, of the August holidays. And of course, because of the nature of Tobago and the relationships and that kind of thing, I remember spending my vacation time in Roxborough, with my grandparents, and other cousins and brothers and sisters. I myself come from a family of 5 children. My dad was a meteorologist. He's dead now, and my mom is a retired school teacher. So we had lots of friends, or we grew up among a lot of people. So we were definitely exposed to a lot of ideas from very young. We were exposed to a lot of influences from very young, I would say. So growing up in Tobago was fun for us. When you grow up in families that are pretty large, we even had bigger friends. Bigger friends. I remember a couple of them well. One named Denise and one named Lisa.
Yes, of course.
Their parents would have been friends. So there's a shared experience.
Yes.
But not only that, I think we were also beneficiaries of parents who had visions for us as children and worked those visions.
Yeah, because it takes a village to raise a child. So we all grew up in the village, and like you said, your mom would have been my aunt who, like my mom, if my mom is not there, she becomes the mom.
Yes,
and likewise.
Yes,
and so yes, it certainly takes a village to raise a child, and that is how we grew up. But tell me, what do you think some of the values you were able to take from your childhood that has you continuing to grow and continuing to be successful up until today?
Okay, well, again, I guess it's really the environment. I think nothing beats environment. And a lot of the things that would have been passed on to us from our parents, even in sayings and in things like, I remember my mom would always tell me, and even when I am about to feel like I want to give up in a particular thing, she would always say something like, man was made to conquer. So don't let any situation conquer you. I remember that was always one of the situations.
I like that.
Yes. My father would say something like, when you see how you like to play hard, to be able to play hard, know that you must be able to work hard, right? I remember statements like, if I were to practice and do everything in practice, if I was supposed to work hard in practice, then I actually work less in real. Things like those are things that,
That
that
have stayed with
that
you.
that stayed with me. And then of course I saw the benefit of hard work. I saw, you know, parents and uncles and aunts and older people that were always diligent in the things that they did. You know, and I used to hear them talking. I used to hear them talking about the accolades this one got or some other person got. You know, if if Denise went off to school, that was a good thing that would encourage us as children. Where they have gone off to school. And so it's part of the expectation that you get to do these things. So I really chomp it down to how our parenting was, and the influence the parents gave to us and the impact. I really think that's it. I think if it weren't for them, I would have done what I wanted to do, which was watch
Play,
TV all
play,
day.
play.
Play, play, play. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Now tell me, as a child growing up, did you have dreams about what you wanted to do? Have you thought? Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody asks, what do you want to do as a child growing up? What would have been your answer?
Oh my word. That is such an embarrassing thing. I always knew that I wanted to be great. I always knew that I wanted to be impactful. I knew that. However, most of what I wanted to most of what I wanted to do was impacted by what I saw on TV. So at one time I know I wanted to be a Secret Service agent.
Okay.
You understand?
And it's not too late for that, so we'll wait out to see if that really happens.
You
Yes.
understand? And then, but there was at one point in time though, when I was about 11, 12, I used to read a lot. I used to read books before they became TV shows. So the Star Wars saga, that was actually a book before it became a movie. I remember reading that out. I remember reading out Indiana Jones before it became a movie. I remember reading Rambo before it became a movie. So by the time I was just into bishops, one of the things I realized is that any other books that I read tended to go up into the region of obscene language and that kind of thing, which I wasn't allowed to at that time. So I started writing. So at one point, I thought I would have been an author. And at that time, I was inspired by the series Turn of the Tide,
Yes, I
right?
remember that.
Good. So as a result of that, I said, that I was going to write. And I remember Mrs. Bradford at the time, I think she's Mrs. Alexander now, the teacher. She was my form mistress. And I remember I used to give her a lot of stuff. But at that same time, something very interesting started happening. There was an alliance formed between Mr. Finbar Sebro, my father, and my uncle, Evans Jones. And they were into chemicals. They were into bringing chemicals up from Trinidad and distributing. And I, being a curious 11-year-old or 12-year-old at the time, would want to know, how did my uncle make this powerful stuff? And I remember he brought me in terms of giving me some of the little formulae for small stuff. And it was from the age of 12 that I started mixing. So I was around 12 years old when I mixed my first usable dishwashing liquid. And that was it from there. So for me, there were things that I wanted to do. All I knew is that at that age is that I just knew that I wanted to change the world. I wanted to make something to change the world. That's what.
So you've gone from, a child thinking about being a Secret Service agent to being an author to And I'm surprised he didn't say making movies, but maybe that's in the
Yeah.
future. And to actually making something with chemicals with your own hands at an early age. When we
Yes.
come back, you would tell us, what you actually studied in school. Did you do any of
Okay.
those when we get back?
Nothing like that. We'll talk later.
Yeah, yeah. Have respect for life, respect for life.
And today we are here on Let's Connect. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and stay with us. And also, we are here with Ted Jones, who is telling his story, and he was about to tell us, what he actually studied in school. So please, Ted, share with us.
Okay. Well, yes, as is expected, I studied in no field at all that was close to those particular passions of mine. So in Bishop's, of course, I did the sciences because sciences were natural for me at the time. And then when I went into UA, I opted for mechanical engineering. And strangely enough, when I left UA and I functioned in the field of mechanical engineering at the THA for a while, I saw a leg in to go to do civil engineering technology. So I left the THA on a bit of a break, and I went back to Trinidad to study civil engineering, of which I had now my HND in civil engineering, came back and flowed in the field of civil engineering for a while because I thought that you would have gotten more mobility within the THA in that field. At that time, I had already kind of put the 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 detergents thing a little bit on the back burner. And I was only at that point in time supplying hotels and that kind of thing, some hotels. And I worked
So,
diligently with the THA for a while until
so you worked with the Tobago House of Assembly as a mechanical and civil engineer,
no, yes,
bringing
I
both
worked
of
more. No,
those.
right. I worked more in the field of mechanical engineering. I did the civil engineering, and when I got back from civil engineering, some opportunities came out for me in the private sector. So I left the THA and went into trying my hand on some contracts.
So,
Um,
what was it like when you first went to work in the Tobago House of Assembly as a mechanical engineer? Sometimes young people coming back, going into the workplace, it's hard getting adjusted, being able to share your knowledge, being able to, see your knowledge implemented. How was that for you?
well, first and foremost, it was much easier for me, I think, in the sense that my expectations were properly managed at the time by the engineer in charge at the time, Gerard Gift. Right, Gerard Gift
Yes.
was my handler, and he was perfect in terms of handling me. I think my personality also led to someone who was likable and that kind of thing. So what he did is the first thing he told me, and someone who was also a graduate of UA, what he told me is that, you see, everything you learn in school for now, forget
Forget
it.
it.
What I want you to do is you now start to learn, and I'm going to introduce you to a team that was going to be your school of hard knocks, your hard knock university. And he did introduce me to a team of people to work with. Now, at that time, I really had to kind of put aside a lot of what I learned, the theory of it, because at the end of the day, engineering and all professions are really about people, understanding people, getting to understand the heartbeat of people. And sometimes I think I would have maybe become a technocrat that if I was not exposed properly, may have ended up being someone who did not fully appreciate the hard needs of people. So he put me with a team of people that I had to humble myself for. There, my university training meant absolutely nothing. There were each one of those people that I was introduced to, I think had more knowledge about the things that they had in their little finger that I had in my whole experience. So I had to learn. However, it helped me to to graft in what I learned from school now with what they were teaching me that helped me become a much better educated individual. Yeah.
And I was so happy that you could share that, because oftentimes young persons, even persons who have just completed their degrees, come out believing that, they have all the answers, not realizing that you now have to, like you say, put that aside and now get the practical experience and
Yeah.
then determine how that theory fits in with the practical experience. So I'm so happy that you were able to be able to share that. And I mean, what so you were able to do that for how many years?
Actually, I was able to do that for close to 13 years. You know, when I look back, I realized that I spent 13 years there. I spent 13 years between the mechanical workshops, Tsoiafatt quarry, where I worked very closely with Mr. Moore and Richie Toppin at the time.
Right.
And then after I went over now to the main office at Works, where I worked with Dr. Boris and Dr. and Mr. Joe. So I had that experience at the top, always being able to be at a place where change was happening. So for me, my time at the THA was always very, very exciting. Always exciting. It was just that I just had to move on because obviously there was a calling upon my life that was greater than my desire to stay there, and it was with much love and with much appreciation and with perfect timing that I was able to move.
But 13 years is certainly a long enough time for you to get your feet wet as a young professional coming back home after studies, to get entrenched in the culture and to gain some experience under your belt. So don't, discount that, those
Yes,
13 years did you quite well. And then I
yes,
think
I
you
think so.
moved on to the construction industry, correct?
Yes, I did. I did move on to the construction industry because, as I said, I had taken now what I had learned in civil engineering technology, and thought that I would have been of much better value as an entrepreneur, as someone who could lend what I thought would have been, and what I think still is, some professionalism that I had learned over the years to the field of contracting and to the embodiment of contractors, right? So that I thought that I was going to operate that way. And some very interesting and good projects, some landmark projects we did on the island of Tobago, I think. Um, we were some of the first people working with Parks International and in the Plymouth um, adventure, development,
Right.
you know. Um, it was around that time I think my first daughter was born. So that was about 10 years ago,
How many do
11
you
years
have
ago.
now?
Two, two.
Okay.
Yes, one will be 12 years old next well, she reminds me every day. So I know it's in 2 weeks and 2 days. Yes. And the
And
other
then the
one is
next
8 years old,
8 years
right?
old.
Yes.
But you've missed the mark, what about the next one?
Oh,
Caught you there.
oh my God. So
Yeah. Yes.
So that has been it, and it went on for a while, and then of course the construction sector started taking a hit. Um,
And this is where you had thoughts
yes.
of converting. So as soon as we come back, you will
Hmm.
share that moment of of your thoughts to actually
Yes.
convert and go
Hmm.
in another direction. So we'll be
Get
right back.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Supportt brand cleaning products, tough on grind, yet gentle on you. In the kitchen, use only Supportt dishwashing liquid. Washing your clothes, use only Supportt liquid laundry detergent. Sanitizing your home, work, or any environment, then Supportt antibacterial multi-purpose cleaner is the brand for you. Ask for Supportt detergent products today because we're family. It's locally made with a great price and everyone needs a little support.
And if you're joining us late, we are here on set with Let's Connect with Dr. D every Sunday 6 p.m. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so you can be notified every Sunday to be here with us. We have on set Ted Jones, entrepreneur, and he's moved from dreaming of in childhood of being a Secret Service agent and author. He actually moved in and trained as a mechanical engineer, as a civil engineer. And then he suddenly decided to do something totally different with his life. Ted, tell us
Yes.
about that.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is where I know you will share the spotlight with me, Dr. D. What had happened is I remember the construction industry had gotten really tight, as I had said, and I began to get quite frustrated with it. Um, Margins were getting low. I think getting the skill set was getting a little bit difficult, and then even negotiating the skill set was going to become even more difficult. So one of the things that I remember one Saturday morning in my frustration, I called an assemblywoman that I knew very well, right? The person is on this program, but it's not me. So just letting you all know. Right? And I said to her, listen, I am frustrated. I do not know what to do. I want some, I want to do some work, but I have all of this skill and this talent, but nowhere it's going. And then I thought that she was going to advise me in the field that, well, there's construction starting in this area, there's construction starting in that area. I really thought that's where she was going. And then she said something that I never forget. She said, Ted, but you have such a skill and a talent with those detergents that you do. They have been always extremely high quality. Why don't you want to go back into that? And it was like if a bulb went on in my head. It is as if my eureka moment came. It's as though in my darkness someone turned on a light. Because for one, when I used to do it, it required very little capital injection. All the things that I've been used to mix was already there. I mean, I've just had to dust them off. And I started back at that point in time. And it was a long road, but she has always, Denise, you have always supported me. You have always been one of the first persons to buy my products. You have always been on the side, cheering me on, right? I mean, they have all the, I mean, because of the nature of the brand and what we are doing and the personality that I think I've been blessed to have has enabled me to have a lot of people join on and want to roll with me and want to ride with me and want to be there for me. But I remember very clearly that you were that person that totally just changed my mindset. From that point on, I remember Saturday morning, I was driving along um in Canaan. I was driving in Canaan along Guy Street, right? And I had reached just by the Nazarene church when you told me that. And I said, at that point in time, I said to myself, I had stopped being a contractor at that point in time. Even though I was still doing contractor jobs, I had stopped being a contractor and had gone back to what ultimately was my first love, which was taking one form of material, joining it with another form of material, making something that I the awesomeness in what I had become. And it just goes to show that one's life could be impacted so significantly just by a correct move.
And I still remember that day, surprisingly, because we were talking about passions, and you spoke so passionately about remembering mixing up these chemicals, and the fact that you still had all of that, all of the equipment in your basement. So you basically needed nothing else to get started with except to just, identify that, hey, there's nothing wrong with me changing careers midstream, especially
Yeah.
when, I'm faced with adversity in one area, and I could, you know, go into another area, something that I still continue to enjoy. And so I think I admire you for that. But perhaps even more so for the fact that when you did your whole packaging and branding, you were not just packaging for the local market. You were already thinking big.
Yes.
You packaged for the international market. And I want you to tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, wow. So what had happened was is that when I used to supply the hotels in 2015, there was the global drop in oil prices, and I remember there was a speech made by the prime minister at the time. That was I think Dr. Rowley had just become prime minister, and just as they came in, there was a global drop in prices, and there was something again about what he said. He said that oil and gas may not necessarily be the source of foreign exchange that is going to deliver us maybe very soon. So he was calling upon citizens to start looking outwards in terms of trying to see what we can do to develop outwards. Now, I took that, I don't know what other people heard, but I took that as a personal encouragement for me to convert whatever I'm doing now, I am going to convert this to a product that even if I was able to make $1 US per product, if I sold 100 products, I know I would make $100 US, and I think it would be $100 US that everybody needs.
That's
At
fantastic.
at the same time, it so happened that if you all remember around 2014, 2013, 2014, 2015, Guyana had just struck oil and had just started monetizing their oil. And what happened was is that one of the guys, because one of the hotels I used to serve, they got familiar with the product, and one of the guys who was one of in charge of purchasing at one of the hotels went back to Guyana. So he called and said, "Listen, I want your products here." So that is when I said, "Well, okay, good, no problem. I'm going to start producing these products and sending it to Guyana." And then I learned that, listen, I have lots to learn about the export market.
So how many markets are you in? Tell me quickly. And then
Um,
tell me, where can people get your product?
okay, well, in Tobago, okay, the markets I'm in is primarily Trinidad and Tobago. You can find it in very small amounts in places like Barbados, Grenada, St. Vincent, right?
That's
They are,
fantastic.
yeah, yes. Did I
And
say
where can
Grenada?
we
Yes.
get, what is your product is Supportt TT, and where
Yeah, the
can we get
support
that
brand.
product to purchase in Tobago
Yes,
and
indeed,
elsewhere?
support, right? And you can get them in most of the supermarkets in Tobago. I think that it's ubiquitous everywhere, I think. If not, it's getting there. We are at over 167 locations in Trinidad at this point in time. We are looking to grow. We are doing some strategic moves to become an even more powerful force in Trinidad. And we are also mandated because we have been selected by the Ministry of Trade as one of the 5 incubator companies to start export to our regional neighbors by September of this year. So
Wow.
we do have some serious mandates ahead of us to try to achieve.
That is some fantastic news. And
Yeah.
with that, I want to say thank you, Ted, for being here and sharing your story. And,
Yeah.
everyone, run out, get a bottle of Supportt TT if you have not used it yet.
Thank
And
you.
certainly, I want to, again, say thank you all for staying with us for another episode of Let's Connect, where we inspire each other to transform our lives and see the possible in the impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. Have respect